Welcome, everybody. I would like to present myself. My name is Evelyn Feige and I'm practicing almost 23 years in Berlin, and I'm teaching homeopathy since more than 16 years in Germany and also internationally. The method I'm practicing is called the sensation method, and it's founded by an Indian homeopath called Rajan Sankaran on the base on classical homeopathy. Since this time, there's a further development by many colleagues worldwide, because with this method we can describe much more precise and much more accurate. Today I would like to speak about how we can use this time, which is a challenge for each of us, to reach a deeper understanding within ourselves and what all this has to do with homeopathy. And first of all, I would like to have a look how looks school medicine and how looks homeopathy on health and illness. What's the view from these both perspectives? In school medicine, a body or a person is defined as a sum of its parts, like a machine, like a car, for example. So in this logic, disease means there's one organ ill and it has to be fixed. So it's a local medicine. In homeopathy, we have the term of vital force. You can imagine the vital force as an energy flow running through the body and keeping everything alive and working in a proper way. With a stable, healthy vital force, your organism is able to defend against harmful influences like flu viruses, for example, but also against the stress of work. A disturbed vital force instead is not able to react in an adequate way on external influences. Such influences could be something like alcohol or drugs, but also fear or long-term grief, anger, and also viruses and bacteria. These influences must be very sudden and intense, that they can overwhelm the organism, or they last for a long time or recur repeatedly, or some of them appear at the same time. There happens a weakening of the life force, which causes a disharmony in the psyche. All the symptoms which the body shows are only a sign and an expression of this imbalance. And this is a result of the disturbed vital force. What is really important to understand, that even if there are several diseases in the same person at the same time, this is only an expression of one detuning of this vital force. We have only one vital force, we have only one energy in our body, one energy in our organism. And when this energy is disturbed, the body tries to express its imbalance. And it can do it only in one way, and this is the pattern we have to find out. As we can see, in conventional medicine, they are given material doses on an individual organ to fix it or to repair it. The homeopathic remedies don't act in this way. They don't try to eliminate a special disease or fix an organ. They have a genuine effect on the vital force, and first of all we have to look how they can do this. First we must have a look how homeopathic remedies are made. As you know, a lot of substances are toxic, like snake venoms or arsenic or belladonna, or they are not absorbable by the body like metals. To be able to use these material substances are potentiated, and that means the material dose is minimized by dilution, and the effectiveness of the remedy is increased by processing the medicine with rubbing and shaking. This process is also called dynamization, and it describes the separation of the healing effect from the poisonous effect, and it means the separation of the matter from the energetic principle. In conventional medicine, all people with the same diagnosis receive the same medicine. Maybe the name varies a bit because there are different companies, but for example, people with neurodermatitis will get cortisone, and people with a gastric ulcer get acid blockers. The aim of the effect is the respective organ, without taking into account that the tuning of the whole organism only shows where the greatest weakness is. This suppresses the symptoms, does not eliminate the cause, and what is the most important here is the illness shifts to deeper layers. You can imagine that someone holds your mouth closed while you try to scream. What you try to do in this moment. Maybe you want to kick with your legs, and when they or even the rest of your body is held down, how you would feel. You can't express what's the screaming about, what you may be moved by or frightened of. And nobody cares why you're screaming. So you can certainly imagine how weakened your vitality becomes when this lasts over a longer period, or when it happens again and again and again. At that point you maybe become really seriously ill. So we have to ask, why is someone screaming? And we have to find a medicine which does not eliminate the screaming itself, but the cause and the reason. So our medicine must have an effect on the life force, on the energetic detuning of it, in order to be effective. That is why we need immaterial energetic medicines. How we can find out what the right remedy is? Homeopathy means, in translation, similia similibus curentur, which means that we cure with a remedy, with a medicine, which is similar to the disease. I would like to explain it in two little examples. If you are not used to coffee and you drink coffee, then you get heart palpitations, you get agitated, you get sweaty hands, you can't sleep at night. And just imagine you have all these symptoms without drinking coffee beforehand. Then maybe a remedy called Coffea cruda, it's the green coffee plant, would help and cure your symptoms. Have you ever cried snot and water while cutting onions? Many people with high fever suffer from these kind of symptoms like running nose, tears in the eyes, and so on. According to the principle of similarity, the remedy allium cepa, it's our ordinary kitchen onion, could help and make the symptoms disappear. That means that certain substances which can cause a certain disease in a healthy person cure the same disease or the same symptoms in a sick person. As you can imagine, this is more complicated in reality, especially if a patient has a serious or a chronic disease. Then it is a matter of finding not only a match in one or a few symptoms, but to find out the pattern which is running through the whole system of body, mind and spirit. This pattern will show itself in the physical symptoms, but also in the mind. That means in the fears, in the preferences of the patient, and also in the dreams or other psychological conditions. To uncover this pattern is what happens together with the practitioner in a homeopathic consultation. The homeopath is not on the driver's seat. He or she does not know what kind of pattern will reveal in the end, but by asking specific questions, he or she can help to bring this basic structure to light. Okay, but how does it happen exactly? So I would like to give you another example. For example, a patient comes to the first consultation with a recurrent headache. The practitioner will ask a lot of questions about the headache, about the main complaint, such as how is the pain exactly, or what makes it better or worse, or is there any trigger for the pain to come, and so on. So the patient could may answer that the headache is like a stinging pain in the left temple with a fine needle, and it shows always when she or he has had trouble with the boss. And this is maybe very interesting for us, because headache after trouble with the boss, this is special, isn't it? Why this is interesting for us as therapists? It's interesting because it leads away from the purely physical symptoms to and makes a connection with the psyche. Therefore, we want to understand it more precisely, and we have to ask for it. So, for example, I will ask, okay, tell me a little bit more about the trouble with the boss. Now there are different possibilities what a person or patient could tell. One might say whenever the boss shouts at her, she feels very helpless, very small, she starts to shiver, she starts to cry. And another person maybe tells, oh, when the boss shouts at her, she wants to be the stronger one. She wants to show him who's the winner here. And the third one maybe feels, oh, what kind of mistake maybe I've made? What's the boss must be a reason he or she's angry about me. So you can see there are very different patterns showing up in the same situation. The homeopathic remedies we have come mainly from the three main kingdoms, from the animal, from the plant, and from the mineral kingdom. What, for example, is the animal kingdom about? Yes, right, it's about survival of the fittest. So someone who needs a remedy from the animal kingdom will find himself suddenly in a situation like it's described above about this winner, and I will show who's the stronger one. So it's a victim perpetrator theme. The homeopath, of course, must try to explore this specific pattern more deeply, because as you can imagine, there is a big difference between someone who needs a snake or who needs a mollusk. Both are animals, but they have different themes, different kind of patterns. What all this has to do with the current situation in the world? As you have seen in this example with the headache and the anger with the boss, intensified situations can bring forth the inner pattern of a person very clearly. In this example, the headache is the consequence, something that occurs after a stress with a high intensity or a stress which has lasted a long time. The current situation is perceived by many as an existential situation. So I would like to try a little exercise with you, and I will give you 2 minutes and ask you to write down what is the worst thing in this situation and the world for you in this moment. For some of you, it could be maybe the fear of being infected or infecting others. Some may not be able to cope well with the isolation, far from family or friends, or others are afraid of the economic consequences for themselves or for the world. As you can see, there are many ways to perceive the situation, and what is touched in a person is very individual. So please take 2 minutes about what affects you the most in the current situation. Write it down as exactly as you can, or think about as detailed as it's possible for you. Okay, yeah, we don't have an interactive session here, so I can't ask you what you have written down, but I will list some few examples, what I think which is possible. For example, if you are afraid of getting the virus yourself or infect others, you could have written down the following. I am afraid of catching it. I sense in every person I meet on the street or when I go shopping, potentially someone who could infect me. If I get the virus, I'm someone who will be certainly seriously ill and maybe even die. I've been always afraid of contagious diseases and deaths, and so on and so on. It could go further and further. If you feel isolated and cannot bear being on your own, you maybe have written the following down. For me, it's terrible to be alone and not be able to see anyone. I miss my family and my friends. Especially without my family, especially without my mother, I suddenly feel completely abandoned and helpless like a little child. I have the feeling that I can't care for myself anymore, although I'm normally quite good at it. It's interesting how different the same situation in the world could be perceived, isn't it? We are currently experiencing in a unique way a situation which is similar for all of us. Most of us cannot leave their house except for urgent errands. Some of us are afraid of the economic consequences for themselves or their economic difficulties. Others are afraid of the disease itself or of the political consequences which will come out of it. And as you can see, a further exploration brings to light ever new layer of your own deeper pattern. In a homeopathic anamnesis, this deep recognition is part of the healing process. And precisely because it is so, you also have the chance here to encounter your very own deepest pattern, to understand it, and also to heal it. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.